This is the Ask Falaschini podcast, where the modern economy is discussed from a skeptic's perspective. Mr. Falaschini helps you distinguish what is sustainable in our economy and what isn't. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not all mud is dirty. The podcaster Mr. Falaschini provides no-nonsense advice. He had it all, lost it all, went bankrupt multiple times, and is now attempting to come back from zero with sustainable growth. There are numerous coaches and preachers on the internet that preach about positive thinking and how life is all roses if you just care to see it that way. Well, Mr. Falaschini is definitely not one of them. We recommend you ask Falaschini to keep it real. He discusses the darker side of the current economic reality, the side that's more important for your personal and business finance. His first intention is to help you keep what you already have. Not to be a complete party pooper, Mr. Falaschini will also hint at the earning opportunities in the economy today. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please like, share, and subscribe. And now it's time to start taking notes. The mic goes to the podcaster, the one and only Mr. Falaschini.
Welcome to the Ask Falaschini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present David Pieper from Berlin, Germany. David is an entrepreneur since his 18th birthday. For over a decade, David and his team have been on a mission rarely seen before, connecting, uniting, and aligning the global large wealth, ultra high net worth individuals. This enables David to make almost anything possible within a short period of time. As a part of his long-term strategy, since 2019, David has been persistently working on his long-term vision to become the largest ultra-high net worth individuals community connected personally and digitally, united by shared values. David aligns over 400 family offices and, of course, 400 families so that they do business together, connecting, exchanging, and sharing experiences. Numbers of wealthiest German-speaking families belong to his circle. His unique technology ensures a great balance between discretion and opportunity. David and his team has a lot of experiences with real estate, financing, and mergers and acquisitions. In the past, he has also provided a great help for Skyland Wealth family members in classic car collections, fine art, capital markets, asset protection through foundation, and remote family office services. David, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story?
Hi, Peter. First of all, thanks for having me. A great pleasure. Of course, yeah. What is my story? Where to start? Huh? So basically, as you did the introduction right now, it's a story I think quite uncommon. Because we focus on the ultra wealthy, a part of the global community rarely been spoken about, and we align them, we bring them together, we do business together, and we match them basically. So where should I start? Huh?
You started when you were only 18 years old. You were the youngest founder in Germany at that time.
Yes.
Can you explain what was your first venture?
Yes, you always start. I don't think you wake up in the morning and you say, "Oh, okay, I will set up an ultra high net worth community and we do business underneath each other." So I started in real estate. I'm a real estate expert, and we started in classical apartments and multifamily houses, and that was more than 20 years ago now. And back in the days, Berlin, you have to recall, was the capital again. So around the millennium, before the millennium, Bonn was the capital, and then start of the 2000s, Berlin became the capital. And my dad was so wise to say that the future in Germany is in Berlin. He was true. It took longer than most people thought, but now Berlin is by far the number one city in almost all aspects. But back in the days, Berlin was like the ugly duck of Germany. So nobody wanted to be here. And there were huge opportunities in the real estate market. And so we started with a special German thing with tax appreciations. So you could, you have to see the former GDR, the east of Germany, was in comparison to the West in a very bad situation, real estate wise. So there were ruins, rundown streets, like half of the East was basically broken, as Eastern Europe as well, Poland, Czech Republic, etc. And Germany, West Germany, basically had a strong program to give tax benefits so that the Western money in Germany invests in East Germany to convert it again to on the same level. It's still an ongoing process. Germany is not even yet, but let's say 80-90% even to the West. And one of these very important programs was that a dentist, a wealthy entrepreneur, a lawyer, etc., from Frankfurt, from Munich, from Stuttgart, they would buy a house in Dresden, they would buy a house in Berlin, Prenzlauer Berg, they would buy an apartment, get big tax cuts, and then enable them to be modernized. And that was my first business. And back in the days, a lot of our clients were wealthy entrepreneurs, and that was my first contact point where I met wealthy Germans. And the first thoughts came up: hey, nobody really takes care of them in a professional way. And then later, that became a little boring for me, and I always try to improve myself. So I had two lines in my life: an academic life and the business life. So I always, as a life insurance, let's say, I wanted to educate myself. So my final goal was a doctor, which I did not achieve, but all the rest was an LLM, an MBA, and etc. And I said I have to get all that stuff done as well to educate myself. And so the second step was basically luxury. I did then luxury real estate, and then again I met a lot of very wealthy Germans and foreigners. Back in the days, you had a lot of wealthy Danish, Italians, Swiss, Austrian investing in Berlin, from Vienna, for example. They love Berlin. And so I came into contact with wealthy entrepreneurs and wealthy individuals, and first realized, they're like a very small plant. There could be a market, basically.
Great. So basically, you developed your ultra high net worth community from your property clients, if I understand correct.
Yes, from the property clients. A good question. I think when you, like everybody that is doing business with ultra wealthy, comes from certain branches. Most of them from banking, private wealth. So they're former bankers, and then they are independent. They set up a family office, for example, or they work in a private bank, or they work in a private wealth business, then in a fund, etc. So most of them come from financial markets. Some come from arts, from super yachts, so from cars, for example. But we realized, when we fast forward now, when end of 2019, when we set up Skyland, and in the preparation before, we realized one unique thing, that everybody that is wealthy in the world, and I really literally mean like almost everybody, you have 98 or 99% chance has real estate and is in touch with real estate. So, and if you turn it around, not everybody has a car collection, not everybody has a Ferrari, not everybody has a super yacht, not everybody has a private jet, not everybody even has companies that he invests in, not everybody's in venture capital, etc. But everybody who is wealthy is in real estate. And if it's only the private house where you live, let's say you live in Berlin or you live in London or wherever, at least the house you live in is most likely your own. But there's a quite high chance that you invest in renovation projects, plots, flipping, whatever part of the real estate business you like. Very high chance. And that is the entry ticket for the community. So when you want to build up a global community in whatsoever, you need an entry point. Like Facebook's and Instagram's entry point is that everybody talks about it and everybody wants to stay inside. So it's a FOMO. So if you're the only idiot that is not inside, then you feel like left out. So that is the big power of the social media. And in the ultra wealthy scene, you need something else, because the classical FOMO is not strong enough.
Yeah, my question, or the first thing that when I met you was, you come from real estate, and that is a really conservative part of the industry. How come that you decided to go so much into applications? You have your own app for everyone. How did you develop this platform? Did you do? Is applications also your passion? How did you go into that?
No, actually, not at all. So basically, as I said, I had a real estate, or I have a real estate career. I'm trained in real estate. I have a bachelor and a real estate economist and an MBA and an LLM, and it was all focused on real estate and private wealth. And then, like around 2017, 18, we realized that the business is not scalable, because if you work on an individual basis with a wealthy family, you can work with 5, but you cannot work with 500 at the same time. Mm-hmm. If you work with 500 at the same time, you're a PwC, or I don't know, like a large global corporation. So you then need to scale it into people or into divisions that you have everywhere in the world. And the second alternative to bring benefit to the people and have a product that solves problems is tech nowadays. So with tech, you can make great efforts and have big effects that you otherwise can only have with a lot of people at the same time. So I'll give you an example. When we show a property, and to round it up, let's say we are 400 people, and we want to show an interesting deal in Munich or wherever you want it to be, I can show it the next 5 minutes to 400 ultra wealthy. If you want to do that in the offline world, it takes you weeks. If you want to give them a phone call or something, days and days and days, individual emails. So you can only scale it through, have people tell them all at the same time, a lot of people, or tech. And we had back in the days, we had successful founders, or have successful founders in our community. They built some of the largest European e-commerce platforms, and I was in contact with them frequently, 2017 and 18, and I thought, everything is digital. You can buy every nonsense online, and everything is run by tech, basically. And why is the ultra high net worth scene a dinosaur? People send faxes and, only give them calls, and are afraid of giving you details via email. And I thought that cannot be the future. The future in large wealth has to be digital as well. The younger generation takes over. They love the digital lifestyle. A lot of the money is still with the 60 plus. So they are not as fast. They're not as fast as digital adapters as we sometimes love to be. So we are not deep tech. We are not in, heavy AI or something. That is something that we would, do in the years to come. So we are slower in that. But to answer your question, we had to learn it from the scratch with my co-founder back in the days. He's not with us anymore nowadays. We literally had our first office in the factory in Berlin. That is a community space for techies and hackers and digital natives. And we had our office there to learn vocabularies. I had no idea what UX, UI is, or all the languages. And seriously, I had no idea what is an API and what do you need it for, and stuff like that. We needed to learn that, and then decided to build everything in-house, because the know-how we built up over the years, we think is very valuable, and we don't want to have it somewhere else, and in some foreign hands, let's say.
Okay, I have another question.
Yes.
Our board of supervisors and your board of directors looks like who's who in Germany, like the list of the most successful people in all divisions. How did you manage to put together this board? How did you put together like this team that is this in football terms? This would be like the best football team in the world probably. But you're in business, so you put together one of the best teams of business people in Europe. How did you manage to do that?
I mean, thank you very much. Compliment goes out to the board. I think it is the overall story, Peter. if you think about it, like if we are like a Google Earth and we fly out like and have a look on the Earth, what does it mean to unite the global wealth if the business idea works out? And that's our bet. We believe in it, otherwise we wouldn't stand up in the morning and work on it. So if you unite the global wealth, from our point of view, you can make almost everything possible. And the everybody that helps us believes in the idea in whatever field he is, if he's in impact investing, or if he's in forestry, or if he's in real estate or in venture capital, that our community can be of great benefit, and their know-how can be of great benefit to our community, because a lot of ultra wealthy are not experts in all fields. Obviously, they usually are extremely good in something, engineering, tech, whatever, and they're very open to exchange and listen to experts when it comes to other topics. That is why I think it's a classical win-win.
Okay, so because I was amazed when I was reading through your webpage, I saw, okay, it's not just David, because you're also amazing yourself, but you also have a team of basically, as I said, who's who in Germany.
Yes.
I have another question. I met a lot of German ultra net worth individuals in Switzerland when I was working in Zug and in Nidwalden, and also in Cyprus. My question is, because you're in family offices and one of your expertise is also, or one of the fields that your team covers is how to organize a family office. Would you say that German legislation is still lagging behind the development of family offices, or that Swiss legislation is maybe a bit more adapted to the reality of family offices? Or how do you estimate this, legislation barriers in Germany?
Interesting, good question. You have to see, wealth is first of all local. So most people that create large wealth do that as entrepreneurs. That is the number one source of large wealth. A second source is inheritance. The Germans inherit a lot. But if you become wealthy in Germany, you're usually very tied to your local geography. Let's say if you're from Hamburg, then you're very close to the Hamburg scene. If you're from Düsseldorf, etc. If you become ultra wealthy and so very successful, and you start setting up a family office, or thinking about setting up a family office, or becoming a part in the first step, maybe of a multifamily office, you first of all have a different look on your fortune than once you created it, because there are two phases in the wealth life. The phase where you created it, usually full of risk, hard work, short nights, etc. And later you want to protect your money and you don't want to lose it overnight, and you're not for full risk anymore usually. And then you become usually you become a cosmopolitan as well, because all of a sudden you have this money, this opportunities that gives you freedom and access. And you can start investing in the US, you could start investing in Asia, you could be in Switzerland, of course, wherever. So usually when you have a larger family office, you don't have a pure local German view. Switzerland is basically still for Germans, or for every German-speaking surrounding countries, it's the number one place for ultra wealthy. I think the infrastructure in Switzerland is unbeaten when it comes to banks, lawyers, tax advisors, structuring, benefits, internationality. You can have, for example, business in Africa and have your family office set up in Switzerland. That's all not so easy or not so good in Germany. But at the same time, in Germany, you know everything. Let's say you're used to it, and you don't have to forget. In Germany, there's this what is that in English? We have this law in Germany. When you want to move away, you are taxed. I forgot the correct English term to it. It's in German. It's called Wegzugsbesteuerung. So that means Norway has the same discussion right now. A lot of the ultra wealthy are leaving the country because Norway wants to keep the money in the country and is not giving them the permission to leave. So in Germany, when you want to leave, you have to be creative. In a legal way, so it's not so easy to go to Switzerland. So let's say both have advantages and disadvantages, but Switzerland is in the global scene, ultra high net worth scene, and family office scene still one of the number one spots, with New York, with Singapore, with Dubai. And I think in Europe, unbeaten.
Okay. I have another experience with a German ultra high net worth individual who explained why he didn't move to Switzerland.
Yeah.
I think he used a similar tactic that you described with your Eastern German property. He claims that his taxes are, if you look in the percentage-wise, high. However, because he develops technical stuff, he gets a lot of local grants. And he also gets some tax cuts for R&D. So his optimization, so his overall equity is increasing, even if the taxation is a bit higher than it would be in Switzerland. Do you think that is something that only Germans think of? Because I know my American friends, they're all about just the lowest taxation.
Maybe I answered in a different way, because it's almost like a daily or weekly topic that we have in the community. Every country, no matter if it's Germany, if it's Austria, if it's France, etc., has a job as a society to be a good place to work, live, prosper, feel safe, have good education, good medical coverage, everything. And a lot of ultra wealthies in Germany are unhappy because the deal does not feel fair anymore. The taxation, the security you have, what you get basically for the money and what you give back to the society. And that happens in other countries as well. That's not just a German thing. The France had the huge discussion years ago, or Belgium, because they wanted to have huge wealth taxes. Germany is always thinking about wealth taxes again as well. So for a lot of people, and that is interesting, Switzerland seems to have the best deal of all, because they have a super high quality of life, one of the highest in the world. But at the same time, they have lower taxes. But the country is still working, has amazing infrastructure. You feel secure. Everything is on time. Medical treatment is perfect. Like, there's, to find something really bad in Switzerland, you really have to search for it. And in other countries, people would say, okay, I can tell you like 5 to 10 things right at once that I don't like. And the problem for the countries, I think, or for the governments, is that large wealth is mobile in most cases. So once you reach a certain level and freedom through large amounts of money, you can think about it and say, hey, why am I in Germany? Why am I in France or wherever? I could live in Dubai, I could live in New York, I could live in wherever, in Singapore, etc., in Switzerland, and you move. And at the same time, for countries, that's my strong political belief, entrepreneurs and people that risk something to create something new belong to the most important parts of society, because they create the jobs, they create the innovation, they are the role models. They bring the country basically ahead of the curve and not behind. And it is not very smart from a political point of view to kick them out through by laws, by taxation, whatever, by scaring them away. And so that accounts into this whole discussion of Switzerland versus Germany, etc. Germany is an amazing country, but for ultra wealthy, Switzerland offers a very, very good package that attracts a lot of, not only the Germans, the Swiss, the French, the Austrians, no matter the Italians. If you're wealthy in Italy, there's a lot going wrong in Italy, so you could live in the Italian part of Switzerland as well.
Yep. I have another question. You mentioned that you have a political beliefs. Does your team or your community has someone that is in charge of presenting their point or your points of view to politics? I know in Germany, politics is structured through regions and also on the, let's say, state level or federal level. Do you have a special team of experts that would present these concerns to people in parliament, to ministers, to maybe even president?
Not yet, Peter. I have to admit, we are the first podcast together. So usually we fly under the radar. It's a very interesting question that you ask, because I'm a very, very political mind, and I have a lot of ideas what I would improve, and that from my point of view would benefit the country and benefit all of Europe. Because if Germany is a strong powerhouse, working well, that benefits all our surrounding countries. So it's not only a German thing. I think a strong economy, it's a European thing. I'm a great fan of Europe and not the national German. But at the same time, politics, is almost a full-time job. So if you want to get involved, usually I exaggerate. You do that when you're a little older, and then you put your hands into politics. But actually, I cannot give you an honest answer. Sometimes when I go running, I think, okay, I could be 100% politician as well, and I think I would like it and fight for a better society. But right now, I think building up Skyland over the next, let's say, decade, building up a very strong business where I actually prove that it works out, and that the uniting and the connecting and the matching of the wealth works out. That is one big benefit I can give back to society. Because let's take a simple example. You have a mid like a growth company. I would introduce the growth company to a wealthy family office. They step in, they give, put down 20 million equity, whatever, 50 million equity, a larger deal. And 10 years later, the company has 1,000 employees. Then basically this one small thing basically creates value for all of society. And personally, I think you can do that in all business branches, small business, large businesses. If you, for example, we have in talking about real estate, let's say you're a developer, you have downtown, whatever city you want to be in, Zurich, in Munich, in Hamburg, and you have a big project development. Somebody needs to have the equity. Somebody needs to take the risk to develop a huge area, build office, build, of course, resi space where people can live in. So some entrepreneur has to do it, because otherwise the state has to do everything, and we don't want to live in socialist countries. So we need entrepreneurs doing it, taking the risk. And behind the entrepreneurs is usually money. And the money comes when it's not from an institutional or from a state, it always comes from private sources. And the best private sources are ultra wealthy and family offices. So I think we can be of great impact to the society by, over the years, building up a very successful business and then helping others to shine, basically. Yeah? And that is one part of the coin. And the money rules the world in a positive sense. And the other part of the coin is politics rule the world. So by changing one law over the weekend, you can completely change a society for the next 10 years for better or for worse. So I think these are the two most powerful parts. The third one would be the Mahatma Gandhis and stuff like that. You couldn't, but that is, if you're not born for it, that part can create a very new momentum in society as well. But it's not coming every day, huh?
Yeah, that is true. I think it would be beneficial if you could organize some kind of a workshop for politics, and where they could meet ultra net worth individuals and just exchange a bit of experience and views. because you have such in-depth information about economy and what is going on and how people perceive things. And you also talk about new jobs, new development. You're also into new technology, so digitalization is something that you're not, that you are familiar with, and you can help a lot. And this industry 4.0, that as it's called, and Web 3.0, that is something that you and your members are already doing it. It's not just something that will appear somewhere in the future.
We even, Peter, had on the board politicians, but they wanted to be taken off again because that is something very German, why we try to fly under the radar. It's a cultural thing. In the US, when you set up an ultra wealthy community, you know, everybody is extremely proud. Oh, you have this member and he, you know, sold his business and he's the founder of Uber or he's the founder of Twitter or whatever. And what would society nowadays be without Twitter? In Germany, it's not like that. It's not like that. The people are like, oh, cool, he set up, I don't know, Zalando. I want to hug him. And, you know, he's a star. And what would we do nowadays without Zalando or without whatever company? So it's a quite difficult topic in Germany. Large wealth. At the same time, we're it's a little ambiguous because at the same time, we are top 5 countries in the world, top 5 wealth. Top 5 private wealth. So Germany is an extremely wealthy country in comparison to other countries, but it is nothing that you are proud of in Germany, that you set up a large country and made a big fortune. You rather hide it. It's a little more Scandinavian from the mentality. So you can do it, you know, everybody's happy, but don't be too pushy in society, basically. So we are not so American in that sense.
Okay, so another topic that I think it would be of great interest to our listeners is how can average entrepreneurs making 6-7 figures benefit of contacting you? What would they have to have? What would it take that they would spark your interest?
So multiple answers, I think. Maybe I can answer you with an example from just the other day. We were on a conference in Frankfurt that was actually hosted by a community member of ours. And it was not for ultra wealthy. It was a huge real estate conference, very successful and nicely done. And there I met an entrepreneur from central Germany, a smaller town that is, you know, not on everybody's screen, basically. And he had a fantastic business idea. I don't want to share all the details here now to don't steal it from him. But he had one of these business ideas where you wonder when he presents it to you, this is fabulous. Why is it not out there? Why has not anybody done that before? And he did all his homework before, basically. So he had not only the presentation, he had the numbers in place. He had architects in place, like design, everything, users. He was completely set, but here comes our community into place. What he wants to do is expensive. So he needs starting money, classical, let's say, venture capital, as you would say in the US, you know, risky capital at the start. But his underlying business is not super crazy where you would think, oh, I can lose hundreds of millions of money and I will never see it again. But I think with smaller amounts of money, you can prove that it's an interesting business. And what would we do, for example, is we could introduce him to the families that put down the money, where we become part of the business. We can help ignite and spark it in the first 1 or 2 or 3 years. And in the later on, set up a large business. And his business even has a huge in the ESG. It has a massive S, so it's a very social business. So the politics and the communities would love what he's doing because it has a strong impact on a certain part of society that is not that much looked after in comparison to CO2 reduction. That is like, you know, the E is the most prominent right now, but not the S.
Everyone is just wondering about the E.
Yes. So that is a classical thing. So usually, what are we usually approached with? Answer you the opposite. if you want to sell something where you need ultra wealthy for something, where you want to stay discreet, where that is probably more exotic, that is large, where you need large wealth for sales. Then we are approached for all sorts of capital. So, we need a quick loan. We need a strategic partner. We want to do a club deal. Of course, we love other family offices and ultra networks to contact us as well. But externals or the entrepreneurs that are not ultra wealthy yet are very welcome as well if they have business ideas, want to grow their business, etc. So we try to be by matching or by introducing the right people at the right time with the right capabilities, we try to improve the business basically, or make a deal happen if it's an asset. So everything basically that are alternative assets, please nothing that is in funds or fundraising or that is already structured money or something that is, we're not Blackstone or something and having 20 funds. We are an ultra networks community where I say, okay, you have this A business, I have 2 families, you should definitely meet and we can build together something great or make something great happen. But no classical fundraising in a fund structure or something. That's not
okay.
us.
I would like to have, before we close, I would like to have 2 opinions on so basically your opinion on 2 topics. What do you think about the upcoming recession that we're waiting for the last 4 years? What is, you have a special insight because you know what is invested and how this restructure is going to go. How do you see this recession? Is it coming? It's going to be just a large reconstruction? How it's going to take place?
Oh, I could probably just on that question talk 2 hours with you, but I try to shorten my answer because I have a political hat and I'm an economist as well, plus the ultra networks view. So first of all, in Germany, we always say it's the glass half full or half empty. For me, the glass is always half full. I believe all, recessions and bad times, they have chances and good times will come again. So I'm not like one of this negative doomsday prophets and, our world will go under and we will all die. I think that's a very bad view on the future. But at the same time, it does not help to glorify something or have a how do you call that, like a purple view or like a pink view on something. So the rapid change of interest rates, and that was fascinating for me roughly a year ago when it started, or a little bit more than a year ago, how this small number, the Fed or the ECB interest rates, where the banks borrow money from, and the implication that it has on the global economy, and how strong the small number is, if it's 1% or if it's 4%, and how can it change a complete economy, global economy. That is fascinating to me, and I think it's not like an economics podcast in detail to talk about it, but in short, money becomes way more expensive, and risk-free money changes a lot again. So what do I mean by that? If you can park your money for 4% or 5% interest rate in US bonds, it makes no sense at all to buy other alternative asset classes, real estate, venture capital, stock, etc. if you only receive 2% and you have a high risk or 3%. So if you put money into venture capital, for example, and there's a high chance that you lose it and you don't get a lot of money out, like double-digit money, you will not do it. You will not buy real estate downtown Düsseldorf for 2.5% yield if you can get risk-free yield in the US 5%. Makes no sense. So what does it mean? To answer your question, I think we are not through with the recession getting more heavy, with asset markets recalibrating, and recalibrating means in a hard way there will be insolvencies and bankruptcies. There will be failed assets, stranded assets, people, that cannot afford their projects, their deals, etc. anymore. They will be then bought again from other players, for example, from our community. We have quite a lot of opportunistic families, of course, that are cash rich or equity rich, where situations come back. where you're not getting your 50 million anymore, but maybe only 38 or 35, but somebody needs the money because bank finance in certain parts is dead. You cannot finance certain assets anymore or at certain prices. So there's we're still in the eye of a storm in a certain way. And the fascinating thing is that the market globally is fragmented because you have some markets that are already very bad. Real estate in Germany, for example, is very bad already. In other markets, real estate is still good, but therefore venture capital markets are completely destroyed in areas. Crypto was destroyed, is coming back again. So we are currently, from my point of view, I forget the specific term, but when you are in a bear market and then you have like a bull, like a short, bull.
That cat bouncing.
Yes, that kept bouncing. And I have the feeling that is the case because I'm a strong stock investor as well. And it makes no sense that you have price earnings ratios in some stocks of 60 or 70 again. Makes no sense at all. Again, think about the US bonds or other bonds. So there's in certain markets, there are bubbles already again. And if I would bet on it, rather have a Coca-Cola or have a Munich downtown than doing crazy risky stuff right now. The chance that you lose the money are higher than gaining more. So I think we're not through it, but always thinking positive and recalibration of markets. We have this huge. We haven't touched it yet, Peter, but just maybe 2 sentences. What we have besides Ukraine war as the elephant in the room basically is the AI and the CO2 reductions. The CO2 reductions, because it completely puts our global economy upside down. Everything that you do in the future has to have a look on: are you polluting our earth and are you destroying the nature, or are you having a net positive or even a gaining product? That is the one big thing that changes the whole world. And the second thing is AI. So AI is a big game changer. I just had a lunch with a community member, and we talked about what is the next big thing that's coming up through AI. And personally, I said, how when you are driving a Mercedes or a Tesla or whatever, you say, "Hey Mercedes," or "Hey Tesla," or "Hey Siri," and then you can ask, for example, Mercedes, "Hey, what's the weather tomorrow in your car?" Or or "How long is the drive to Munich?" But you cannot say, "Hey Mercedes, tell me something about this castle we just drove by and the architecture and the history and who lived there and why is it so special." Mercedes cannot give you an answer. And I think the next big thing is, for example, that we really interact with the artificial intelligence. And so this is a huge, I think, very tough to estimate for a global economy what's going on there, driven by the change in tech right now.
Okay. Thank you very much for all these insights. Is there anything else you would like our listeners to take from this interview? Any quick tips of trade or any trade secret that you can share?
I would rather say, because I understand most of the listeners are entrepreneurs as well and business owners and everything. And I can always only say, since we built up the ultra high net worth community, that most people thought before we started, what a crazy idea that will never work. Why should the large wealth and billionaires and etc. sign up to an online platform, exchange, mingle, etc. And they thought we are crazy. And what I can share is, if you have a vision, don't give up, work on it, do your homework, be precise, find out where you're better, where you're cutting edges, what you know more than others, and then jump on it, basically, and don't give up. I think that's a key thing.
Thank you, David, for being my guest tonight.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Faleschini, for this outstanding podcast. And thank you for listening to the Ask Faleschini podcast until the end. Mr. Faleschini would love to hear your feedback in the comments. And don't forget, if you want to know, ask Faleschini or listen to the Ask Faleschini podcast. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.